Welcome back. Talking about ASU demanding for economy change from President Bola Tinubu. We have a guest joining us today on ATN Business. He's no other person than Mr. Polycarp Elumeze. He's a PhD CEO of Africa Growth Nexus. Good evening, Mr. Polycarp.
Good evening.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Good evening. Thanks for having me on your station once again.
You're welcome. How are you enjoying the festive season?
Well, it's been full of lots of social and community-based engagement, lots and lots of meetings. It's just 3 o'clock and I've had about 5 different community meetings so far. So it's festivity, but it's also work, so to say, community engagements. But it's fine. It's fine.
All right. So before we go on a short break or before we have you on the show, we were talking about some sectors that are calling on President Bola Tinubu to ensure a better economy in 2025, including ASU and other people who are demanding better economy from Tinubu. I'd like to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's okay. For those organizations you mentioned, like ASU,
yes,
industrially, and other sectors, that's basically what they ought to be doing, really. But it's now coming off as news because prior to this time, there's not been any proper structure or system set in place for these groups, to work in partnership or in synergy with the government. Normally there should be a system through which, a platform through which ASU on its own advises, render professional advice and other forms of technical advice to the government, because they are in the academia, they carry out all manner of research annually, and the product of these researches should really be available for government, should be really available to the government to use and apply. So, and these areas have been grossly wanting for the most part. So that's the situation. However, just to say my thought, I think it's okay, but they shouldn't just complain or make comments, but they should find a system to follow through, to make sure that the government understands the angle from where they are coming from when they make suggestions and when they criticize policies, so that you won't be like one of the past administrations when any professional makes any comment or makes any remark as per what the government is doing, you hear that they've been politicized, they've been bought over by the opposition party and all of that.
Okay.
So it's okay for us to make those observations and comments.
Okay, Polycarp, thank you so much for that. According to Newsmen's interviews conducted by Newsmen, a lot of people have been saying that the key to these changes they are demanding for is the full implementation of fiscal policy and tax reforms, which they hope the National Assembly will pass in the coming year. Do you see any possibility of the fiscal policy of tax reform, most importantly, having an effect on the economy of Nigeria come 2025?
Nigeria has never been in want of policies and programs that can actually engender development and progress.
Okay.
The problem we've always had is the problem of implementation.
All right.
So if really, yes, the government can implement these programs like they've thought it out, implement it properly, and then to act with fiscal responsibility. It's not just about having these physical programs, but fiscal responsibility is also key. So yes, it will drive development really.
I quite get you right there. Do you think there is any need for the Central Bank of Nigeria to stabilize interest rates? Because these are most of the concerns there. A lot of people are having that the central bank needs to stabilize interest rates and also redeem 2.4 billion naira for forex forwards owed to manufacturers. Do you think getting this would enhance market stability come 2025 as well?
Yes. In fact, central bank does not only need to stabilize interest rates, but they need to bring down interest rates.
All right.
I mean, no nation can develop with a 2-digit interest rate. It's not possible.
All right. So I'd like to get your thoughts also, Polycarp, on how the government can tackle inflation, particularly addressing logistic costs and to ensure better synergy between fiscal and monetary policies. I'd like to get your thoughts on that as well.
My thoughts on the area of logistics, I mean, basically it's about the costs of the price of petrol, right? And to that, I would say that government has not really taking up that challenge seriously. Well, because there is still so much controversy and distrust, on the part of the people as regards government policies and government intention with this subsidy removal and vis-a-vis how it affects our people. You understand? And then it's not just enough to say we want to do this. The government should go back and look at this again. Nigeria, we have no business really buying petrol, buying fuel at 950 naira, let alone 1,070 naira.
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So we have no business buying petrol at that cost. So government should really go back and study this thing again. We're basically, I strongly believe that the current petroleum price regime that we have has a lot to do with the behemoth of corruption the nation is dealing with. Even though a lot of our people in government wouldn't want to accept or admit this, but that is the true situation of where we find ourselves. And until the government really takes up that area and take a critical look at it, most other efforts and most other initiative of the government will look like just pouring water on rock. So it has to be tackled first and foremost before you start looking at how effective whatever program or policy you have will be in that direction.
All right, University Professor Emmanuel Osodeke also urged the federal government to prioritize the creation of a conducive educational environment in 2025. How will this also help the education sector? Do you think this is going to help the education sector come 2025 as well?
Oh yes, it will. It will a great deal. It will. If the government will not just only say it as a policy statement, but put up actual mechanism in place to deliver on these initiatives and programs that they are suggesting and proposing, it will really change the landscape of the educational sector, I believe. Like I said, government there's never been dearth of policies and programs. It's just implemented that we've always suffered from.
All right. Somewhere around last year or early this year, the presidency came up with a policy of giving educational loan to students, the university students, and right now a lot of people are saying that this educational loan is not going to help the students in any way. It's like a burden to the students, right? And they are not really financial free. I'd like to also get your thoughts on this, as they are also calling on the federal government to remove anything that has to do with, educational loan.
Well, at risk of being misunderstood, the educational loan is, my personal point of view, the educational loan as conceived and currently implemented by the federal government will not really help the Nigerian students. One, the cost of it. The cost of it. Two, the procedure, these processes they have to undergo to qualify for this facility. And the burden it will eventually put on them, especially looking at the fact that we have teeming undergraduates come out every year who are here to get employment, and then they come out. Some people have been out of school, out NYSC for the past 4 or 5 years. They are here to get jobs, and then you're seeking for job. You have the burden of the federal government education loan. Some policies we copy in Nigeria, right? We just bring them from wherever. But you see, these things are part of a functioning system. So you don't just take a part of what is supposed to be a composite system and want to apply it. There are things that should be in place before we begin to talk about giving student loan for it to work. Remember last time I told you one of the times I was on your studio program, I said that one of the problems to have in Nigeria is a problem of identity. Every Nigerian is basically a ghost unless you work in the formal sector. You know, so until we have the NMIC, the National Identity Management Commission, we have NIN, you have BVN, but every time you go to apply for something in Nigeria, you still have to bring a lot of documents and a lot of things. Normally, if the system is fully functional and your identity really works the way it should, just your NIN number should tell the entire story about you, just like it works everywhere else. You know, so we can't just pick one item out of a composite system and think we're going to apply it in Nigeria. It will not really work like that. So that's the challenge we are facing.
All right, Polycarp, on to the next story now. World Bank has fully disbursed a $1.5 billion loan to Nigeria following the federal government's implementation of key reforms, including removal of fuel subsidies and introducing comprehensive tax policies, Newsman reports. The loan, part of the reforms for economic stabilization to enable transformation development policy financing initiative, is among the fastest disbursement Nigeria has received, with both tranches released in less than 6 months. According to a World Bank document obtained by Newsman on Sunday, the loan was approved on June 13, 2024, with the first tranche of $750 million disbursed on July 2, 2024. The second tranche, tied to the fulfillment of specific economic reform conditions, was disbursed in November 2024. These rapid disbursements contrast with other loan programs, which typically experience delays due to slow or partial implementation of conditions. For more context, another loan of $750 million was approved on the same day, June 13, 2024, for the Accelerating Resource Mobilization Reforms Program for Results Project in Nigeria. Newsmen observed that the World Bank has only disbursed about $1.88 million to Nigeria at the time of filing this story, which is less than 1% of the total approved $755 million for the AMO project. The World Bank documents read, "These documents summarizes the progress made under the reforms for economic stabilization to enable transformation development policy financing for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Borrower or recipients, which was approved by the executive directors on June 13, 2024. The financing agreement and loan agreement were signed and declared effective on June 19, 2024 and June 26, 2024 respectively. The first tranche was released on July 2, 2024. While the document itself did not clearly state when the disbursement for the second tranche was made, further findings by Newsmen show that Nigeria got a $750 million disbursement from the World Bank in November. The World Bank commended the government for not only meeting the condition, but exceeding expectations by fully deregulating the fuel market. The documents noted in terms of implementation, while the TRC tranche release conditions formulation required introducing the change over a specified time-bound implementation period, the borrower has moved ahead and made the change immediately, thereby overachieving the TRC in this respect. Effective October 2024, the price of PMS has been determined by the international market and the exchange rate set by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Polycarp, I would like to get your thoughts on this as Nigeria gets $1.5 billion billion, I beg your pardon, for subsidy removal. I'd like to get your thoughts on this one. Polycarp, can you? And business continues. Stay with us.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Thanks for staying with us. Quite unfortunate that we couldn't complete a conversation with Polycarp Ilumeze, CEO, Africa Growth Nexus. Well, the show continues. And now on to the stock market. World shares drifted lower on Monday as elevated government bond yields prompted investors to pull out of equities at the end of a year that has been positive for many regional markets. MSCI's broadest index of world shares dipped 0.1%, but is still 17% higher for the year. Trading volumes were thin ahead of the New Year holiday on Wednesday. Stock markets in Germany, Italy and Switzerland are short on Tuesday as well, while those in the UK and France have a half-day trading session. European stocks opened lower. The Pan-European Stocks 600 index ticked down 0.1% by 10 a.m. in the morning, weighed down by the technology and industrial goods sectors. This week, China reports on the purchasing power of its manufacturing industry, PMI, on Tuesday, while the U.S. activity data from the manufacturing industry in December is due on Friday. South Korea's main index has suffered a storm of political uncertainty in recent weeks and is saddled with losses of 9% for the year. It was last down 0.2%. Shares of South Korean budget carrier Jeju Air 089590 KS hits the lowest level on record on Monday, the wake of a plane crash that killed 179 people. China's blue chip CSI 300 index closed up roughly 0.5% to be up almost 16% on the year, with almost all that gain coming in just 2 weeks. In September, after Beijing promised more stimulus, Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng closed roughly 0.2% lower. Japan's Nikkei share average retreated on its last trading day in 2024. Down from Friday's 5-month high as investors locked in profits on the index that rose nearly 20% for the year. The continued rise in bond yields, driven by the reassessment of less restrictive monetary policy expectations, creates some concern, said Corsair Elizundia, a research strategist at Broker Pakistan. The possibility that the Fed may keep restrictive monetary policy for longer than expected could temper corporate earnings growth expectations for 2025, which could in turn influence investment decisions, said Elizundia. European stocks edged lower on Monday as elevated government bond yields prompted investors to pull out of equities at the end of the year that has been positive for some regional markets. The Pan-European Stock 600 index dropped 0.3% by 0.947, with technology and industrial goods makers leading broad-based declines. Trading volumes were thin ahead of the New Year holiday on Wednesday. Stock markets in Germany, Italy and Switzerland are short on Tuesday as well, while those in the UK and France have a half-day trading session. The 10-year German bond yield traded at its highest since mid-November, tracking a rise in U.S. Treasury yields as uncertainty around monetary policy next year and prospects of inflationary policies under the Trump presidency weighed on investors' sentiments. The Stoxx 600 is still on course for a 5.9% annual rise, with German stocks leading regional gains in French shares. Lagging still, the European benchmark lags the S&P 500's 25% surge this year as interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve and a boom in AI trades boosted Wall Street's tech behemoths. The surging S&P 500 and Nasdaq underscored the market's tech-fueled triumph, though last Friday's sell-off, triggered by climbing Treasury yields, was a sobering reminder of lingering rates concerns, said Matt Brisman, senior equity researcher at Hargreaves Lansdowne. The German DAX dipped 0.3% on its final trading day of the year, but locked in course for a 19% annual surge, making it the top performer this year among major European bourses. On the flip side, France's CAC 40 was set for an annual drop of 2.5%, driven by concerns about the country's spiraling fiscal deficit and political turmoil. Indian companies are fundraising through corporate bonds hit a record high in 2024, aided by declining yields and stronger appetite for long-term notes. And investors expect issuances to remain robust in 2025. Indian firms raised a 10.67 trillion rupees through the scale of bonds till December 27, a 9% jump over 2023 data from information provider Prime Database showed. Fundraising has seen a boost, with corporates seeing a need to diversify and bank lending seeing some moderation with a slower deposit growth, said Vinay Pai, head of fixed income at investment banking firm Equirus. With nominal growth of the Indian economy expected to remain between 10% to 12%, credits should also grow at more than 12%, and the demand could be split between banks and bond markets, he said. The rise in issuance is likely to be absorbed easily, driven by rising investor demand following Indian government bonds' inclusion in multiple global bond indexes, freeing up more opportunities for domestic investors, said Suresh Darak, founder of Bonda Bazaar, an online trading platform. Well, dollar maintained its firm stance on Monday, while the Japanese yen traded around 5 months lows as global currencies headed the end of a year characterized by diverging central bank outlooks. The dollar index, which measures the greenback against a basket of 6 other major currencies, was up to 0.1%. It's 108.1 on the day. It was capped around this level after touching a 2-year peak of 108.54 on December 20, underpinned by rising U.S. yields and expectations for U.S. rates to stay higher for longer. The dollar index is up 2.1% in December, bringing year-to-date against to 6.5%. Despite Spade forecasters almost universally calling for a weaker U.S. dollar in 2024, the greenback looks set to close the year higher against all major currencies, with the buck reigning supreme, said Chris Wesson, head of research at Pepperstone. The dollar has gained in each of the last 3 months, with traders expecting President-elect Donald Trump's policies of looser regulation, tax cuts, tariff hikes, and tighter immigration to be both pro-growth and inflationary, which will likely keep U.S. yields elevated. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields hit a more than 7-month high last week. The yield hovered close to that marked on Monday at 4.599%. The yen, on the other hand, was trading at close to 5-month lows on Monday, flat at 157.85, with only the risks of Japanese intervention preventing another test of the 160 level last seen in July. The dollar has gained 10 yen since December 3rd, with much of the decline in the Japanese currency coming after the Federal Reserve's December 18th message of caution around future rates cuts. That view has weighed heavily on the yen, which hit its weakest level since July 17 last week at 158.0 per dollar, and has shed 10.6% so far this year, on track for a 4th yearly decline against the greenback. It came after July lows on Friday after a summary of opinions from the Bank of Japan's December policy meeting showed some policymakers gaining confidence in an imminent rate increase, while the Japanese central bank also cuts its monthly bond purchases. Well, this is where we wrap it up on this episode of ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network. Thank you so much for staying with us. Remember, we are open for adverts, placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Victor Peter. Thank you so much for watching. ATN Politics comes up next, to stay with us.